Good evening and happy Thanksgiving Eve, just a few hours away from my favorite holiday of the year, and I know you love it too. So we have a lot to talk about tonight with our regular Thursday night crew. Ben Troop, Bob Bredman, France Berry will join us tonight to talk about what's going on in the world of Gator sports, and there's a lot. So you might want to stay tuned. So tell your friends and neighbors. The Buddy Martin Show is on the air right now. Check it out.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening, and hello to you on Thanksgiving Eve. Yeah, it's coming. I've been collecting all my pictures of food and stuff. In fact, let me just start out the night right. This is what it looks like at my house today. I didn't do any of this, by the way, you might guess, but this is how it goes down when we have Thanksgiving at Miss Tony's place. If we can get the pictures to come up, we'll show you some of the cooking she's been doing. She's, there you go. This is just part of it. This is her world-renowned pies. And, man, if you don't like that, you ain't American. That's all I got to say. Sweet potatoes in the middle, and you see to your left the pecan and the pumpkin and potato and the egg custard pie. That's just some of the stuff she does. So, boy, it's going to start out right tomorrow. Hope your house looks as good as mine. And speaking of which, before we go to bed, I'll just say, this picture reminded me, not necessarily my family, but if old Saturday Evening Post covers of what Thanksgiving looked like to some people. Now there are different pictures, people of different color, different. This is just one of the ones that reminds me of my Thanksgiving days. Not necessarily because I don't have both my daughters in the picture, and that's not Brendan. He's the youngest, I'll tell us. But that's just kind of a nice memory of Thanksgiving I thought I'd share with you. And here's one more before I go to bed. This is what we have on our house every Thanksgiving. It's this. It's the Macy's Day Parade. There it was in 1957 with turkey. That's New York City. Been there a lot of times. It's a special thing to go to. If you've never been, you ought to go. So my family has enjoyed it, and hopefully you'll enjoy it tomorrow, along with many other things. Your friend and family. And the last thing I'm going to do, Ben, sit tight. I've got to get this in for my friend Julie. Now, my friend Julie is got something she started called Julie's Stockings. It's her Julie's Designer Stockings, and she makes these stockings if you need something to hang up. There it is. There's some of the work that she does. Put up there she is. See the way she knits those things beautifully. So I told her I'd get that out there, and you won't remember this, but her email address is JUFL Packer. She's a Packer fan at gmail.com. If you're interested in buying one, on the right is a big one. Gator colors. On the left is a small one. Contact me. Julie's a terrific person, and she's doing this for a charity. So if you're interested, get in touch with me. Now, having said that, let's go right to the commercial and then to Ben standing by in the orange and blue room.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Thanks, Jeff Cardoza and TitanMRI.com. Thanks for your sponsorship. And thanks to this guy. It's always one of my favorite shows when this guy's on with us. I think he might be out and about traveling tonight. Looks like he's got his hat on. He's been smiling. He's got using his phone tonight. That means Ben Troop is in the house. Happy thanks to you and to Thanksgiving to your brother.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, buddy. Man, you showing off a little bit. The missus, I mean, I knew she could throw down, but you talking about them pies.
Oh, yeah. No,
hey, man, this the only time I get my sweet potato, pumpkin. Pumpkin and sweet potato do not taste the same, but I will eat them the same. I will eat them the same. But this is the time of year to where the missus get to show off. She get to show off what she doing in the kitchen. I'm like, that's why, buddy, you don't hear nothing from Buddy on Thanksgiving because his tummy is full.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm fixing to lay down and get to that pie tomorrow, big time. It's my favorite one. What is your favorite? I mean, I just love pies, and my mother made them great. My wife has learned to make them the same way, and she got the pecan as they call it, down south, pies, and she learned to make them like my mother did, and she is now superior in almost every pie. In fact, the custard is great. She just makes great pies. So boy, I can't wait to bite into those things tomorrow.
Oh, my favorite pie always gonna be sweet potato. I mean, but I'm like, buddy. The thing is too, though, it's not so much that sweet potato pie is my favorite pie. I ain't had a lot of pies. Like I've had pumpkin pie, I've had like apple pie, but listen, the custards. I heard that them custard pies are the best. So whenever I can get a chance to just sample some of them custard pies, I'm gonna cut a slice and give it to you, and I'm gonna take the rest of it.
I want to tell you what, I could eat the whole custard pie. We had a friend named Augie Griner, who was a former basketball player, a dear friend, many years. He passed away, and when he got ill, Joni would make him pies, egg custard, and he'd say, "Joni, bring me one of those egg pies you make, those egg pies." So we call them egg pies in honor of Augie, and they are some good eating. I love Thanksgiving for so many reasons, not the least of which is the food. The rest, the football, the family, all the things that go together. And the best part about it, you ain't got to buy no presents. You have no gifts. You just come in.
Not yet. Get your money together because they try to get you, buddy. It's Black Friday. That's where your money go. It ain't Thanksgiving. It's Black Friday. You end up spending money you ain't even have.
Exactly right. So I saw one today on Black Friday. I don't do them, but I bought this one sweater and shirt, which combined together. Really liked it. And I thought, I'll buy one for Brendan. I looked up the price, and I said, Black Friday. So, oh, boy, I've been to jump on that. What they did is they jacked the price up by $10 and then discounted it. So that's the idea of Black Friday. So you can get some deals, though, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, buddy, you said it, though. You said Thanksgiving is about a lot of things, food, family, reconnecting with people, but just really, really giving thanks. When you think about the last 2 or 3 years in this world, from pandemics to all kind of stuff, man, we just happy to have each other and enjoy one another. And, I think the biggest thing is just us celebrating each other for no reason at all. Yes, we get to be around each other, but Thanksgiving, hopefully we doing some level of Thanksgiving every other day, if not every day, with our families. And hey, man, I mean, I'm a part of the Buddy Martin family now.
You are definitely that.
I cherish that, and sometimes things happen the way they do, so you can add to your family. So, Brendan, the missus, yourself, hey, man, I'm happy to be a part of the Buddy Martin crew.
Well, we're happy to have you as part of our family, and I mean it when I say it's one of the best things that ever happened to me, getting to be friends with you. We've had a wonderful time. How long have we been doing this? I got to stop and think about it.
I want to legit now. I mean, no lie, buddy. It might be going on a little bit over 2 years now.
I think so.
Because it started off with the Buddy Martin show, and then here come Gator Collective. We don't really know what it is. So we really don't know what it is. But we jumped right into it, and then it went from Buddy Martin to the Gator Collective to now we got Orange and Blue Bloods. We got Lauren Meadows. We got Friends. We got Rob. I mean, we just added to the squad.
And we got Bob Redmond tonight, who's really done help us on the recruiting part. I just want to take a minute on your behalf to say to these people signing on, because they are big fans of yours, to Tony Lee, Gene McClain, Jerry Frazier, Susan Cunningham. Boy, Susan, I haven't heard from you in a long time. Terry Johnson, he's a regular. Toby C. Permit, he's always on. Good evening to you. Eric Newton, good to hear from him. Jerry Vitaliano, he was one of the first member of G&K. Dan Bond, one of our regulars up in out in Texas. Jane Lindemann, all the way up in Alaska, not Nebraska. And Jane is up there celebrating in the cold weather. Dan Bond says, Yum, David Myers, Eric Cruz. There's a bunch of people on there tonight. So happy Thanksgiving from Ben and I and all the rest of the family here on this Buddy Martin show. Well, we got to talk about some football. And I wrote a piece tonight in which I talked about the great history of the series, and you played in it, and you know what it's like. But if you ever didn't experience the Steve Spurrier, Bobby Bowden era of Florida State, you ain't lived, because it's one of the, I think it could have been the best series rivalry in college football for a while. I mean, they were always in the top five, and playing for a national championship. And so I wrote about that today. And also I kind of said a little bit of a, just in case, a goodbye to Anthony Richardson, because we're hearing, that he's going to take, we're hearing, but we don't know what he's going to do. We're hearing he may take whatever the deal he gets in the NFL, unless he just drops way down the second round. And even then, when you're second round, you get good money. So I would suspect he would probably take that deal. The question is, Ben, is and this is so many rumors, whether he would play out the season. If he decides to go draft, he might not play in the bowl game. What do you think?
Well, he's such a peculiar case, right? Because I think you said it, buddy. If he is a first round pick, mid to late first round pick, right, obviously you take that because you never know, right? That means he's done what he was there to do. But because he's such a wild card, and because I really, really think he loves his teammates, I would bet on him too playing the bowl game, only because he knows that's one more game to put on tape. Mm-hmm. That's one more opportunity because let's face it, buddy. I mean, when's the last time Florida had a first round prospect at quarterback? It's been a while. I mean, Rex Grossman, Tim Tebow. It's been a while. So he to me, he's grown up so much in this 1 year, in this first year. And if you Billy Napier, you couldn't have picked a better dude to run your offense, a more athletic dude. And I know we're gonna get to talking about recruiting here in a little bit. Yeah. He's done so much for the quarterback room because now guys saying, all right, I don't have to live. It's like tight end with Kyle Pitts. They don't got to live up to that necessarily from a talent standpoint, but he's setting the bar pretty high. I mean, he really, really is with what he does. But if he does decide to leave, we wish him the best, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely.
We know one thing about the quarterback position at the University of Florida. It ain't too many things in life gonna compare to that. It ain't too much pressure gonna be higher than that. But that's why. But buddy, if he does indeed get a second round grade, I think he comes back. I don't think he leaves as a second round grade.
You think so?
Yeah, but only because this. I'm gonna give you a name, and I know it's way different. Joe Burrow, his junior year, had a second round grade.
Right.
He goes out in 2019. The banner year, won the Heisman, number 1 overall pick, undefeated. And I'm not saying Anthony Rich gonna do that, but he has that type of upside when you talk about. So if he gets a second round grade, I see him coming back only because. I mean, if you could get a second round grade in your first year in the offense, that definitely jumps to a first round grade, especially with you being more a headliner. Bryce Young gone. Bryce Young gone, maybe CJ Stroud gone, Will Levis gone. All these big time quarterbacks, they're gone. So you get to be a potential headliner in 2023.
That's a lot of money too. I mean, I look up what they're paying these days.
He's gonna do the insurance policy, Belly, like you said. That his insurance policy at least be what, $30 million if he gets one.
Yeah, I don't know. I would think because I know the money they talk about for first rounders is really a lot of money. I mean, it's 2025. I think Pickett last year he was 20th, first quarterback pick. He got $20 million.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean. And now I don't know where AR will wind up getting picked. Some people say he'd be the third quarterback. If he's the third quarterback, he might not make the first round. He might be upper. I don't know. It's way over my pay grade. But, I've been kind of wishing he'd come back for one more season because I want to see him have a chance to play in such a great environment in his hometown, and enjoy the fruits of his labor. He's done things right. He's been a good kid and whatever, and he would have if he's going to get $1 million, $2 million in the second round, I mean, he can make that much money in college. But
Yeah,
now,
if he's not making that now, if he's not getting that now,
he's making over $1 million now. So I can't pretend to know. We don't know these things. We have no way of knowing. We just guessing like everybody else. But I don't know. I kind of wish that some people said to me, "Well, no, he needs to go on. Need to get another quarterback." This Hartman kid from Wake Forest is getting a lot of run around here lately. A lot of people like him, and he says he likes Florida. And I heard last night someone said to me that he's either going to play at Florida or in the NFL. So I don't know. So you follow that ACC closer than I do. I don't know. So
listen. I did hear some rumblings. We got somebody revving these engines out here.
Yeah, let's go. Roll them up.
I did hear some rumblings about Sam Hartman, and I hope it is true. He's a big time quarterback. I hope it is true.
Yeah, well, he could certainly help. So there's a lot going on in the portal. Now here's the question of the night. And I don't want to sound like a broken record. People are getting tired of hearing me say this, but it's not coincidental. And the fact is that Florida now is missing DeQuavion Frazier, Xavier Henderson, Justin Shorter, Ty Bowman, and Marcus Burke. All right, all going to miss the game. All right. So that means they got Reynolds, Douglas, and some of Pearsall. And I heard today that it was posted that Kerry Colbert, the wide receiver coach, was taking reps as a wide receiver because they didn't have people to practice. Now, Ben, help me out here. I know you have to make choices when you're trimming the roster down, and I still go to my grave wondering why they couldn't keep Trent Whittemore around for a few reps, get him on the field, have him here in his eye, and not be in this bind. Because I don't care what you say, it's on the coaches. I know it's not easy, but it's on the coaches. When your wide receiver coach has got to be doing reps in practice, you mess something up because you can't tell me. What is it? Are they blocking too much, getting hurt, or what's going on here? I don't know.
I mean, it's going to be a head scratcher, buddy. Because I can say this too. I love Pearsall. I love Justin Shorter, but it's what you said. It's what it says to the team. Whittemore to me is more of a true depiction of college football because he's not the biggest or the fastest or the strongest, but he gets open. He's dependable. He don't make waves. He don't pout when he don't get as many balls. And I knew that when Pearsall came over from Arizona State, I said, all right, because buddy, just like I know, it's only so many balls to go around. And I didn't think that Whittemore would be the odd man out. I thought that Pearsall would be on the outside, Justin Shorter would be on the other outside, and you would split between maybe a Xavier Henderson and a Whittemore because you can't put a price tag on veteran experience. A guy that grew up wanting to go to Florida, a legacy player, family went to Florida. And I thought he had, not to compare him to him, but he had Chris Doering type ability. Not saying he's going to be that good because who is, but I believe what you said, buddy. Sometimes you got to fight. I get the Brennan Cox situation, but you got to fight for guys like Whittemore because it's bigger than what he can do on Saturday. It's what he does during the week. Great young man. Brother decided to not come to Florida. He's going to Mississippi State now. I just think that sometimes you miss out on certain players because you let the business of football get in the way.
Well said, exactly. And I will just say this, and I hope you don't think I'm whining about Whittemore. I'm just disappointed. Here's a guy who can play, wanted to play, couldn't get on the field. If they're so deep in wide receiver, why are they now so thin? Now, going back to Billy Gonzalez, and I like Kerry Colbert. I think he's a heck of a coach, all that. But you know what Billy Gonzalez did? He rotated those guys all the time.
Yeah.
He got 4 guys in the league who played on the same team, wide receivers. Why? Because he gave them reps. You can't tell me that they couldn't give him some reps. I don't know Trent's story. I don't really know why he didn't hang around. But right about now, you could sure use Trent Whittemore.
Yeah, but and I think that's a great point, right? Van Jefferson and Hammond and Freddie Swain and Cleveland, those boys would have been headliners on any other team they would have been on. But Billy Gonzalez got them to say, "Hey, man, not only are y'all guys gonna play team football, unselfish football, they was the gunners on punt. Them guys playing special to starting.
Yeah, good point.
And to me, you see how much better of a team we were when I got 4 guys that all got different skill sets. Van Jefferson and Freddie Swain playing the slot, right? Obviously, you got like guys like, obviously you got like, Hammond and those guys and Cleveland on the outside, and they was on some pretty good teams. And and that's when we couldn't run the ball to save our life, and we would still had a good team. Could you imagine if you got Whittemore, Pearsall, Justin Shorter, Xavier Henderson, all those boys on the field? That means you got with Montreal, with Etienne, with Anthony Richardson. That makes you with Osiris Torrance in that offensive line. That really makes your offense unstoppable, because I got 4 guys on offense, 4 guys at receiver with 4 different skill sets, with Zip, with Sanders, with Odom, and those guys. I just think sometimes we make football hard because we get so fixated on certain players.
Absolutely.
When every player on that team can contribute. Don't get fixated on one guy, because at the end of the day, if Pearsall came over from Arizona State to be the guy, we wasted his talent too, because we ain't even find a way to get him the ball either.
Yeah, you're right. And you think about, no, they don't do that. Listen, I know it's hard sometimes with that many players, but we had a situation where for 2 plays, they only had 10 men on the field on defense the other day. So they lose track of players. They lose track. It's just the thing. All coaches do. It happens. But somehow I still say, I know Trent Whittemore. I can't. If I didn't know him, I probably wouldn't say this. But I'm thinking this guy is pure gold. He's like you said, heart of a Gator, but he's orange and blue. Dad local. Like I was talking to his mother the other day, David Whitley. He says they're considered royalty around Gainesville. This family, and he's looked into it. Nobody's talking. But again, I don't want to sound like a broken record. But boy, I'll tell you what. Give me Trent Whittemore any day of the week, especially when I'm playing guys that ain't been on the field before. So he's a valuable guy. So. Yeah. So all right. So let's talk about. We've got. By the way, we got Bob Redman coming on in just 2 seconds, and we get Bob on. We'll talk about this some more. Well, let's just bring Bob on now for a second and chat with him and say good evening and happy Thanksgiving to the guy who invented recruiting news and reporting, the great Bob Redman. What's up, Bob?
I'm doing all right, buddy. How are you?
We're doing all right, and happy Thanksgiving to you.
I appreciate that. Same to you. Looking forward to family.
Yeah. Me too. Now, Ben, I hate to do this to Bob, but I got to put this back up again. This is what my table is going to look like partially tomorrow right here.
Hey, he's showing off, Bob. He's showing off.
I know. This is one thing I love Thanksgiving, and I got to say, I got a weakness for this kind of thing, these pies. Oh, my gosh. What do you think, Bob?
That's pretty good there, buddy.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I didn't make it. My wife did. So I'm sure your table is going to look nice tomorrow, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. What kind of plans you got tomorrow, Bob?
I'm actually heading to the in-laws, so actually it'll probably be a pretty big gathering. I would imagine 25 or so. Ooh. So it'll be a fun little deal.
Ooh. How about you, Ben? What you got going on?
Yeah, man, I'm heading to see the fam as well. I mean, it's kind of like a big, all the kids now, they got schedules like the president, so we got to work around them. We got cheerleading competitions and soccer competitions, but we gonna find a way to eat a couple of turkey legs. Yeah, if I got to knock on a random door and say, listen, I'm just smelling some good stuff on the outside. As soon as you give me a plate, I will be off your front porch. I promise.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, it can't get better in football, family, and friends, and a holiday like this. So Bob, we just were talking. I want to get you a weigh in on this. I'm become a whiner on this topic. I know what people are saying, but they're down to almost no wide receivers, as you know, and Kerry Colbert's taking reps. And you look at it, and Ben and I were talking. I don't know what happened here, and I certainly understand the right of a coach to pick his squad. But it seems to me, just logically, that if you're that short of wide receivers where your coach is taking reps, why wouldn't you have given a guy like Trent Whittemore a few more reps to hang around for the rest of the season? I don't know why he left. Maybe I don't know what the reason was, but wouldn't it seem like that'd be something you do, Bob?
Yeah, I guess it's hindsight, but I mean, I think the injuries happened really quickly and lately for the most part. I mean, Henderson missed a game or two, and Shorter's been out here and there, and now all of a sudden they all kind of happen. So I don't know why Whittemore, didn't get back on the field after his injuries and stuff like that. I don't know why that didn't happen. I mean, the guy to me was like, he caught first downs, right? So he wasn't a big playmaker after the catch.
No, that's all right.
But when you needed 3rd and 11, he got you 12.
That's your guy,
and
right?
He was doing that, and so I didn't understand it. We're not there behind the scenes and knowing all that stuff. I understand wanting to get Caleb Douglas on the field. We heard how good Dejon Reynolds was in the spring, and he pretty much disappeared for most of the fall.
Right.
So I think there are some talented scat guys, if you will, that can make plays after the catch that are on the squad. That they're there. But again, I didn't understand the Whittemore thing. Honestly, I don't know exactly what happened, and I know people are going to think I do, and I just don't know. Yeah. And it's one of those things where I probably would, even if I heard, I wouldn't repeat it. But it is what it is. Sometimes those things happen on squads when you have 100 players.
I guess, I guess, yeah. It's a mystery. I guess we'll never know. Well, it's portal time. Ben and Bob. And I see the Alabama boys are kind of bailing. And we're hearing stories about the possibility of Florida players not playing in the bowl game. I don't know that. It's one of the many rumors out there. But today I know this. Kyrie Jackson, the defensive back for Alabama, hit the portal today. And earlier, the running back, Trey Sanders, a 5-star running back, also decommitted or is leaving and going to transfer portal. So it happens, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that, fellas, and I think we're going to see it pretty soon. Don't you think, Ben?
Absolutely. I mean, we already know that a lot of recruiting is going to happen through the portal, and one reason why is you already got players that are acclimated to the college game. Doesn't matter what college they come from. Doesn't matter if D1, D2. You got guys who are ready to go out there and compete. And let's face it, sometimes it just doesn't work at your current school. It happens every single year. I mean, I'm really, really intrigued to see what's going to happen. I know Ole Miss and Mississippi State play tomorrow night. If it's breaking news that Auburn hires Lane Kiffin on Friday, I don't want to hear any more complaint about these players, because Lane Kiffin has sworn up and down that he's not leaving Ole Miss. He's done a player-only meeting saying if he still leaves on Friday to go to Auburn, I don't want to hear nothing about these players, because at the end of the day, it's only 11 slots on offense, defense, and special teams. And if you play quarterback and offensive line, that they don't come off the field. So I hope that we snag us some. I mean, because if you look in the last couple of years, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Hendon Hooker, I mean, and company. I mean, when you look at those guys, those are transfers, and no one had anything to say about those guys being transfers coming in. Joe Burrow, transfer. So, hey, you always want to get the quarterback first. I get it. I know there's some rumblings, Rob, about a big-time quarterback in the ACC that might be coming to Florida. I ain't going to get too crazy about it until I hope it happens. But, hey, man, if we can get a big-time QB, you saw what Hendon Hooker did for Tennessee in the right system. If we can get the young man, I heard this from an ACC, outlet, which I don't really rely on them that much. But as y'all know, hey, man, if you want the easiest person to get is somebody already ready to go. They just going to go from one college to another.
Bob, I think it's going to be a lot of changing of the guard in Gainesville, and I'm hearing big estimates about transfer portals. What are you hearing, Bob, about that?
Yeah, look, I've been saying this since before the season started, and it has nothing to do with the season itself. Florida has 4 scholarship seniors. If they sign, everybody predicted they'd sign 28. So do the math there. That means 24 guys that are not scholarship seniors have to leave the roster because they had a full 85 when the season started. I mean, and they're going to do more than 28. It's going to be plus 30 if you're going to count the portal and everything. So it's a large turnover one way or another. And I know Buddy's still trying to keep Anthony here and everything. And here's Ben throwing out a quarterback from the ACC coming. So, I mean, both of those things aren't going to happen. I can tell you that much. I think, first of all, we got to understand the deadline for the when these guys announce for the portal right now, they can't unless they play for a team that lost their coach, they can't actually physically enter the portal. So they're just basically announcing that I'm going to enter the portal. The technical portal starts for guys that don't lose their coach, at least the FBS level. The FCS now actually has started already, but for the FBS, it doesn't start until after the bowl games are announced or the playoffs are announced on a week from a week from Sunday, right? So that's when that get announced after the championship weekend, and once that kicks in, then these guys can actually start talking to schools and everything. So if Florida's talking to some quarterback in the ACC right now, it's not legal. It just isn't. So. Those guys haven't even entered the portal anyway, technically or even otherwise at this point.
Well, he'd be a graduate, wouldn't he? He'd be a graduate.
Sorry?
He would be a graduate.
Yeah. So, I mean, but even now, it doesn't even matter if you're a graduate or whatever.
But, Bob, they're talking. Of course they're talking. They're talking through other people.
I understand what the league – I understand what the illegalities are. I get it. But I'm just saying that none of this talk it's all just talk right now. It just is.
Sure. But that's what we do.
All is talk. Nothing these guys and then you mentioned Trey Sanders, Florida was hot and heavy after him a couple years ago. He's played at IMG and his brother actually played at Florida, and they signed his brother in order to try to lure him here. He was a 5-star running back, and he got injured early on at Alabama. So,
well, just to set the record straight, and I wrote this column tonight, which will be in tomorrow's Gator Debate, which I think your column is going to be in too, which is going to be great to have Bob's recruiting information or whatever he writes about. Love to have Bob in our magazine Gator Debate. I released Anthony tonight. Okay, I went ahead and wrote the column and said, there are things like, well, first of all, there's several written reports that he wouldn't play in the bowl game, which I don't know. I have no idea about that. But I said when I looked up the money, how much it was, if he were a first rounder, and there's some question if he will be or not, because he'd be the second or be the third quarterback probably taken. At that point, you're down lower first. You're talking anywhere from first round money from 16 to 20 million, down to when the second round money could be 3 or 4 million, whatever it is. And Ben made a point a while ago that that it wouldn't be unusual, as we found out with the kid from LSU. Quarterback who won the Heisman, his name is having a senior moment. I'm talking about. He didn't go in his junior year. He got
you talking about Joe Burrow.
Burrow and he came back for another year. So I'm just putting it out there, but I'm saying it's probably not going to happen. He needs to do what's best for him. That kind of generational money doesn't come along. The pipe dream I had was a romantic notion that maybe they get a policy for him, and it was worth $25, $20 million, whatever it might be, NIL deal, and he comes back one more year. Because what breaks my heart about this is the enormous talent that Anthony Richardson is, not to have a year where he had it all together and a chance to excel for the team he loves, grew up loving, playing for. You have the rewards of his hard work, and I think he deserves it. But if it's not to be, it's not to be. So I'll kind of let that go, Bob.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, look, I agree with Ben on this, and I have. Again, I'm not one that wants that to happen. I just, believe that that's going to be the case. And here's the thing about Anthony. Regardless of what he does right now, when he shows up at that combine, just tell me who's going to do better than he is at that position. There's just not anybody that's going to run as fast, not anybody that's going to lift as much as he does. There's not anybody that's going to throw as far as he does. All the intangibles that coaches are looking for as far as physical talent, he's gonna just be off the charts. And so, I mean, but we're not seeing really that part of it right now until he breaks those big long runs like he does.
No.
And those haven't happened enough, quite honestly. By the way, I know we're going to talk about this, but we need to see a bunch of that Friday night.
Yes, we're going to talk about that pretty quick here. And just Ben, in writing and talk about this last time, as I watched him run down the field for that 80-yard run recently, I thought, this is a 6'5", 240-pound man, okay? Running like a deer. And like you said, Bob, how can you not fall in love with that when you see him on the hoof?
Yeah, because coaches at every level, and I always talk to people, is like coaches on every level think they can outcoach the lower level, right? Mm-hmm. So college coaches think they can outcoach the high school coach, and so they will draft on potential, or they will recruit on potential.
Sure.
And the NFL coaches do the same thing. You know what? They won't be able to do it, but you know what? I can. I know what I'm capable of doing. And sometimes they're right, and sometimes they're not. But when you take that into account and you see what this kid can do physically, it's just, it's hard to turn that down. And he might not be a first round pick. I mean, there might be whatever questions there are. I just think, I think when he goes to that combine, it's going to turn a lot of heads. That's what I think.
Yeah. A final thought on him from Ben. Ben, if you had to guess, which way would it go?
It's going to be hard for him to stay because at the end of the day, Bob, you make some great points. No matter what, the quarterback position is the premier position when it comes to the NFL football. And the three things that Anthony Richardson has done the best. He went to the Manning camp last offseason and ripped it up. So now you got Peyton Manning speaking on your behalf, which is great for any quarterback. He's 6'4", 230 pounds, and going to run a 4.445. And it's like what Bob just said. Look, when he's sitting there, when you get the sample size, you got them all standing there together, all height, weight. He's going to stand out because no matter what, as much as we act like, oh, man, he's a physical freak, when's the last time? That's all the combine is. The combine is the shorts and T-shirt Olympics, and they looking for a freak. If you don't believe me, we had a guy that went to Florida. His nickname is the Freak. They've been looking for him since he left. So I'm just saying he's going to benefit no matter what. It's like when John Gruden said the first time he seen Cam Newton, he said, all them other quarterbacks that came in here, they look like quarterbacks. And Cam Newton came in here, and I was like, they making them like that now? Yeah, I want that one. I don't care what he can't do. I can find a way. All 32 teams can utilize Anthony Richardson's talent. I don't care who they are, and I don't care how long they've been under center. If you can't find a way to utilize 6'4", 238 and can run a 4.4 with a cannon, you do not deserve to coach in the National Football League.
Yeah. All right, before we get into FSU Florida, and we'll get Francis shortly, Bob, can you give us a little rundown on what's happening in the world of recruiting? There's some big things going on, and they had that run going. How much will the loss to Vanderbilt hurt the recruiting?
Yeah, I don't think the loss. Somebody asked me that today, and I don't think the loss hurts. It doesn't help. Of course, it doesn't help. I think I can't see one prospect not showing up for a visit because of Vanderbilt. I can't see one prospect not picking Florida because of a loss to Vanderbilt. I just don't see it. I mean, you can actually turn that to your advantage and say, we just ran out of players. And guess what? You show up next year, you're that guy that can help us actually win that game. So I don't see that. I mean, everybody knows this is a rebuilding year for Florida, and they're selling that to prospects, and they know, and that's actually a positive. I mean, to be for those guys to be able to come in and play right away. Kids want to play. They want to play as early as they can and as much as they can. And Florida is going to be able to sell that because like we talked about earlier, all the numbers that are going to leave the roster, it's going to be the biggest. I don't know if purge is the right word because it's such a negative, but
it kind of is a purge, though. I mean,
it's going to end up being that way. The biggest one, probably ever on the Florida roster. Charlie Pell was right before my time, and I know that kind of happened, and the numbers were bigger too because there were at least 105 scholarships back then. But I don't remember how many players that he got rid of. That's another wrong term. I don't know how many players left that roster after his first year. But I mean, I think it's gonna definitely be 30 plus this year for this roster.
So now, how are they doing in the ones they won?
I think I still feel pretty good. I mean, I think the thing if you follow Florida's recruiting, they're number 8 right now. But even after losing the quarterback this past week, they still remain number 8, and that's because they have a high level prospect. The rankings per prospect is pretty high. And I think overall they're doing. I think the one thing for me that I'm a big Florida recruit, Nick, which I have been on my entire life. Yeah. So, but I think getting that first 5-star, right? I mean, so Kamari Wilson was a 5-star right up until the end of the recruiting process last year, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, it didn't stick. And so. I think getting that first 5-star in this class is a big deal, and I think they're going to get 1 or 2 of them. And I think that'll reignite things as well. But I mean, we're just less than 2 weeks away from a really big pickup in the quarterback. So I think things are going fine. Right now it's kind of get to the end of the season. And, half the people don't want to play this game Friday night. And I've been talking about fans, and half the fans do want to play it. So, anyway, I think it's kind of get to that point and then readjust to recruiting.
Right. Well, let's talk about that. My column tonight is, I'm an old guy, so I harken back to I've seen every one of these 66 games. Some of them I watched from New York City and some from Colorado, but I've covered most of them and seen them all. And, when I think about Florida State, I think back, I can go as far back as you want to go, including the opening kickoff of the first game. Bobby Wren almost returned it for a touchdown. I was a student in Florida when that happened. Now, not that makes me anything special, but having seen all these games, I have a really high regard for this series, even though it's not what it used to be. Because if you don't know about the Spurrier-Bowden competition, you don't know nothing. Because that was unbelievable. That was one of the most remarkable head-to-heads. And Bobby got the better of him with the 7 out of the 13 games. One was a tie. And Spurrier won the debate with the Free Shoes University comment. But it was unbelievable. It was like a bunch of jets flying around back for everybody was, had 4.4 speed, 4.3 speed. And the coaching and the back and forth and the dialogue and the hit, the echo of the whistle and all the stuff. What an unbelievable series. I could make a case for it in the sample size, saying this could have been the greatest rivalry in college football. Because you think about it, in every one of the 11 regular season meetings, both teams came in with top 10 rankings. And FSU was in the top 5. So they played, the national championship was almost always in play. And the games we saw and the coaching and the players we saw, I mean, it's got to be right there. I know people today wouldn't believe that, but Bob and Ben, isn't it up to us to explain to these people what an unbelievable series and rivalry this has been?
Yeah. Go ahead, Ben.
At the end of the day, I think obviously, you know who I'm biased when it comes to whoever Florida's biggest rival is. But I think when you talk about a love story, a love-hate story made for college football, made for it, it doesn't get better than Bowden and Spurrier. They couldn't be more polar opposites as far as like personality wise. Yeah. Bobby is this golly gosh darn, I just love everybody. And Spurrier is just, I'm throwing visors. But the mere fact that it's almost like if Ohio State and Michigan could meet in a national championship, if Auburn and Alabama could meet in a national championship, Florida, Steve Spurrier's only national championship, that wasn't his only national championship appearance, but only national championship win is Florida State in New Orleans. Don't get better than that, people. I'm just saying, like, I ain't have nothing to do with that, Bob and Buddy, but I talk trash like I did. So anytime Florida State want to say something to me, I say, you remember what happened when it was raw for, and you had Jets beat us in the regular season. We ranked number 1, you ranked number 2. We go to the SEC championship game, y'all go to AC, and then we meet each other in New Orleans. And Ike Taylor, people, caught that thing and stopped on a dime, touchdown. The rest is history. May Bobby Bowden rest in peace. I think listen, Steve Spurrier is directly connected to Bobby Bowden. They're even though Bobby Bowden coached way many more years, I think Bobby Bowden need Steve Spurrier. I think Steve Spurrier need Bobby Bowden. It was incredible. And I was happy to be a part of those series. I was there in 2000 when we lost to Florida State, and Chris Winkie won the Heisman that year, and they was throwing orange. The biggest oranges in the state of Florida was in Tallahassee because I got belted with about 2 or 3. They was literally throwing oranges at us. But you're right, buddy, man. It's such an underrated, undervalued, underappreciated rivalry because, like you said, it ain't what it used to be. But I'm telling you, it's going to be standing room only in Doak Campbell Stadium come Friday night. I still think it's worthy of one of the best. I don't know if it's the greatest rivalry there is, but it's definitely in the top 10, definitely.
Yeah. And the game you speak of, Bob, you remember it was the national championship game, the Ike Hilliard play, that little stop-and-go thing. He was unbelievable. But, what happened was the week before that, they lost in Tallahassee when Danny got hammered, got beat up like a piñata. And all the smack talk back and forth. And I had a really bad game there. And when the time came, he had to apologize to his teammates, saying he didn't play well. And they came out smoking. They just and they had their offensive line, but they didn't have the start. They had 2 young tackles in Tallahassee, Bob. And then they got coached up and they played well, and they got their offensive line back. In New Orleans, and that was like Spurrier said. But we didn't win the most games, but we won the one that counted. That was some game there, wasn't it, Bob?
Yeah, remember they moved to the shotgun from that was
Alabama game.
Mm-hmm. He was under center, and then he finally caved and went to the shotgun after all those years. And that change. I was actually, that's when I used to work for the team. I actually was filming the end zone copy from the air conditioning duct in the top of the Superdome for that game. So I was, I had a perch like nobody else in that one. But I was. That was a great week. I got to go with the team and tour around the town and do all the things with the team that year. So it was a lot of fun. But I said this before, Ben. We talked about. I said this about the Georgia game. The hardest hitting game on the schedule is Georgia, but the nastiest game is this one. This is always the nastiest game on the schedule, and it probably has more to do with all the players from the state of Florida on both sides that know each other and that kind of thing. But it's just there's always fights. There's always this, that, and the other that go on. During the game before, we've had guys kicked off the team. Out of the game before the game started.
Okay,
Other memories. Ron Zook Field. Remember they
2004.
Dedicating. That was my. That I actually was working in the press for the first time that year after leaving the Zook staff. So that was actually a very fond memory for me. So anyway, it's always been the nastiest. Again, Georgia's the hardest hitting game, Florida, Georgia. This one is just dirty stuff happens.
Yeah.
Darnell Dockett happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and twisting Ernest Graham's leg.
Right.
Deal. And by the way, let's all share a story, a personal story, if we have people asking us about this game. Bob, you share a little bit of one about what you're doing of some kind. And I will say this. I'm taking no credit for it. I'm just saying at the time you're talking about Florida getting beat by FSU during that season. I lived in Colorado. I covered the Broncos, and John Elway had gone to the shotgun, and Dan Reeves had a difficult time finding a way to run the ball out of there. But he found a way, and it really made Elway's career when he went to the shotgun. So I would come to practice, and back in those days, I could go see his office and talk to him. And I literally would say to him, almost beg him, why don't you try the shotgun? I'm not saying I could. So it just seems like it would work better, and especially after Danny got beat up like he did. And he said, whatever. But whatever he decided to do when he did that in that Alabama game that year, they beat the crap out of Alabama, and then, of course, came in and beat the crap out of FSU. That was an amazing thing right there that happened, one I'll never forget. But, boy, that was a fun one to cover. And I know, Bob, you've had some fun stories, and Ben, you must have a couple to share as well of things that happened when you played against them Noles.
Oh, yeah, them Noles, man. I don't know. Womack, the one that had the I Hope You Dance. It won like music.
Yeah, Leanne Womack.
Leanne Womack. Listen, that goes back to my freshman year, man. They just won it, and we in Docam, and the coach was like, Coach Perry was like, hey, we gonna listen to this song. Maybe we can go out there. Then we got the hell beat out of us, man. I said, no, so I ain't been a Leanne Womack fan since, man. I mean, I like the song, nothing against the song, but it's like you said, Bob. It's like when you talk. This is my Florida State story. It's always the same. I'm a Georgia boy. And I know Florida State is the in-state rival. I remember getting interviewed and somebody was asking me, man, how you feel about Florida State this year? And I was going to say something complimentary. And I don't know what teammate across the locker room was yelling, we don't like them. He's telling me to say, no, we don't like them. That's what we feel about them. We don't like them. So I guess I didn't get the memo. So he's walking up to me saying, we don't like them. It just happened to be Alex Brown. We don't like them. And it's one of the most genuine dislikes you've ever had. Like, it's something like I used to like garnet, even though it looked burgundy. I used to like gold, but now I don't even wear that combination no more. So I don't like them. I don't like Boston College. I don't like anybody that has those type of colors. And one of my, BJ Bennett, my best friend, Florida State fan. Every time I see him, I go, y'all wear burgundy, right? He goes, that's garnet. Garnet is not a real color. Garnet is not a color. It's burgundy, man. I don't care what no one says. Or you got a little baby mascot named Cimarron. I call him Cinnamon. Do I want Chief Osceola to fall off that horse? Hell yeah. I can't stand Chief. He coming there on the donkey with the polka dots so he can stick it. Oh, my. I respect him, but I can't stand him at the same time. And I was there for the Darnell Dockett game, and I met Darnell Dockett at the Combine, and he talking to me like he ain't just pulled Ernest Graham knee. I ain't got nothing to say to you, man. What you want? Get out of here with that nonsense.
Yeah, and then Bob, and then we'll kind of make a prediction of what we think might happen in this game. Bob, you got any more good stories to share with us on Florida State?
Oh, my. When I was in college, I was in the band back in the day, and in the late 80s, it poured every time we went to Tallahassee. I mean, just literally gully washer, just ridiculous rain. And this doesn't really have anything to do with the game other than they actually used to let us march. Now, if there's a sprinkle, they don't let the bands out on the field because they don't want to mess up the pretty grass. But they used to let us march, and, we had people stepping and literally losing their shoes in the mud while they were marching and stuff like that. And, we used to call it the Erector Set Stadium because they just had the high school bleachers for the end zones and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's always been one of those things where they've been the little brother, They went and fancified that stadium and made it look like a castle, but we still, a lot of people still point to it's still a Erector Set underneath. So it's just always been one of those things where people, we're the big brother, little brother syndrome.
Sure. All right. So here's my last story real quick. And this, Toby brought it up. The Choke-A-Doke. I spelled it C-H-O-A-K, Choke-A-Doke. And the reason I remember it, other than the fact it was like a loss, was I happened to be writing freelancing that day for the New York Times, writing the game story, Bob, on deadline with a 4 p.m. deadline, okay? So I had to pre-write a lot of stuff. and it was such a slam dunk because they were up by 4 touchdowns, right? So I'm sitting pretty here. I knocked out this beautiful stuff and got ready to go, and then FSU scored once, and FSU scored twice, and FSU scored 3 times, and I had to call New York and say, kill that running. It's no good. That story never made it into the New York Times. I wrote one that did, but I kept that story and put it in one of my books as to the story that never made it, because you talk about a shock. I mean, that was Spurrier's worst defeat against FSU without it being a defeat, Bob.
Yeah, that was not a pleasant Saturday, that's for sure. That was very unpleasant.
Yeah. Let's talk about this Friday night. The first ball is kind of strange. Florida very thin in the ranks of receivers. Florida needing desperately to pull this thing out somehow. Can they do it, Bob? They're 9.5-point underdogs. They don't have enough wide receivers to go around, and the defense is missing their best player for the first half.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, Florida State. Let's stay on Florida's defensive side. Florida State, their offense is good at throwing the ball. Their offense is good at running the ball. They got a quarterback that runs. These are all things that are not good for Florida this year. Albeit Florida's defense has actually played, if they don't commit penalties on third downs, they have played pretty well since the second half of the Georgia game. So I think they just need to stay aggressive again on defense. Stay aggressive. Don't make the silly fouls like they did especially on third downs. And, I think they can keep it they're not going to shut them out. They're just not, because Florida State's pretty good on offense compared to where they have been. Offensively, with all the issues at receiver, look, I mean, the Florida State defense, their rush defense is their weakest link. And so, like I say every week, Anthony Richardson has to run the ball. I mean, you got to force him to run the ball. Look, he didn't run the ball the entire first half against Vanderbilt. He runs the ball the first play. They force him to run it. They call a designated quarterback run, and he gets 7 yards. And it was a beautiful design play, too, and they get 7 yards. But then the offense picks up. Everything else picks up. Everything else opens up when there's that threat of him doing it. And then there's also that threat of him doing it. So, yeah, nobody should throw in the towel here. I mean, this is Florida State. Again, it's a nasty, nasty rival, and people are going to come out swinging haymakers. And Florida they're going to have Ricky Pearsall. They said he was going to play. They're going to have – I love Caleb Douglas, think he's a player. We saw Dejon Reynolds, 8 catches for 165 yards. So they got guys that can catch the ball and do things with it. Nobody's going to throw in the towel. They got to come out and show up.
All right. Good point. Ben?
Yeah, I agree. I think when it comes to this game, I mean, no one's going to care who's not there. Florida State hasn't beaten Florida in a long time. It hasn't been competitive for some years now. I know Mike Norvell understands it doesn't matter the type of year you've had, even though you beat LSU and you've had a bounce back year. If you can't beat a Florida team with a first-year coach, with a team that's only lost outside of Vanderbilt, only lost 2 ranked teams, it ain't going to mean nothing. And I think that, too. Look, at the end of the day, the guys that's going to be out there is good enough to get you a win. You still got Montreal. You still got Etienne. You still got Anthony Richardson. You still got that offensive line. All right, so you're not going to have Ventrell Miller the first half. You still got Javon Deck. You still got Princely. I mean, Trey Dean has been playing better as of late. As long as we don't let Jason Marshall return punts. If I see Jason Marshall back there returning punts, I'm going to lose my mind. But at the end of the day, you go out there and you play hard. I mean, Florida State knows that no matter what they do, the barometer is right there in Gainesville. They know that. And it doesn't mean that they're not a good squad this year, but it don't mean the thing. If you can't beat them boys from Gville, we would want nothing. I know Anthony Richardson writing a lot of big checks right now saying when we win and all this other type of stuff. If Anthony Richardson continues to not turn the ball over and he's his full self with a complimentary defense, I think we can make it a 4-quarter game.
What's the over-end on how many tackles that Ventrell Miller will make the second half? About 12?
It's going to be a lot. He's definitely going to be amped up,
yeah.
Which Look, Ventrell Miller is one of the feel-good stories of this team. I mean, the heart and soul, 6-year senior, and he's more than lived up to the billing. A true leader. I know he feels horrible about what happened against Vanderbilt, but hey, man, he got the cheers on the first half, and he got to make sure we make it a game going into the second half, and we know we're gonna have some fresh legs running out the second half of the game with Ventrell.
Well, gentlemen, I've enjoyed this. We want to say, get well soon to Francis' stepdad, who's in hospital tonight. He couldn't be with us. He's moving Dom, and so we wish him the best. Hope he has a decent Thanksgiving and gets well soon, gets back home to him. And to you guys, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for being a part of this show. Both of you make it special, and you're not only good information, but good guys, and love doing the show with you. And thank you very much, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody at your house, Bob and Ben.
Yes, sir.
Thanks,
Appreciate
buddy.
it.
All right, my friends, take care. All right, that'll wrap up the show tonight. Let me tell you a little bit about our friends at Renstar Medical Research, and then I want to tell you a little more about Jeffrey Meldon. Renstar Medical Research, as you know, if you followed this show, they've been doing this a long time, supporting us and supporting the community as well. And they're terrific people, and they're also good gators. Just want to remind you, they have a very high-quality patient-centered clinical research facility right here in Ocala, where they're doing clinical research trials a lot. And often things you might be interested in, from things like psoriasis and Alzheimer's and osteoarthritis and migraines, etc. You can check them out at renstar.net and see some of these clinical research trials and be a part of it if you choose. Check it out. Renstar's been doing this since 1998, and they've done over 700 clinical research trials. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. They are wishing all of you a very, very happy Thanksgiving. And we'll go off with our friend Jeffrey Meldon with Thanksgiving greetings. Well, it's Thanksgiving week. It's always a pleasure to see Jeffrey, but especially during this week, he's always so happy. And one thing about it, it's a time to celebrate. But you know what, Jeffrey? It's time to be careful on these highways when you're traveling, right?
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. It's probably the most dangerous time of the year because everybody's traveling either Wednesday or Thursday of Thanksgiving and then heading back on Saturdays and Sundays. It's crazy out there on I-75 and in our area. So either stay home or be extra careful.
It's crazy out there.